Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. Enjoy the video. That's right guys, today we're going to be talking about episode 5 of American Horror Story. And before I get into this episode, I just have to say guys, we've waited 5 entire episodes, 5 weeks. We're going to get into the 6th episode, that preview though guys, we're going to get into Murder House. Finally, not just Murder House, we're going to get back into the very first season. We're going to reintroduce Jessica Lange into American Horror Story. And I cannot be more excited guys. This is going to be epic. She is the best thing I think that's ever happened to this show. The very fact that they got her back even for an episode or 2 is, at least in my opinion, incredibly exciting. And I think I was a little down on this episode and this season last week. This one, I think, brings it up into just the best possible iteration of this crossover they could actually do. And in order to explain that, I really have to say, I love the fact that we're now taking time. I was worried last week that the entire flashback trying to build up Michael's character and the 7 Wonders and all this other stuff, it was going to be something that didn't take up a whole lot of time in this season. Now it's really clear that they're taking their time and they're going to go back and explore these characters, explore these situations, and really allow for the Coven and Murder House crossover to take precedent in this season. And that to me is incredibly exciting, and that's what we got in this episode. So let's just jump into episode 5 of American Horror Story Apocalypse and really dig as deep as we can into why this was a really awesome episode. Very first thing I noticed though when I started watching it was that Coven music. Every single time that Coven music plays on screen, you're like, man, this takes me back to the 3rd season of the show, where I still think, like, even to this day, and it might be for a lot of people, American Horror Story Coven is not the best season for American Horror Story. I think you either love it or hate it. There's really no in between. But I really appreciated and enjoyed American Horror Story Coven when it was actually playing week to week. I think it's one of the best scores of any of the seasons thus far, and every time it plays on screen, it just gets me excited. But when Cordelia actually wakes up in this post-apocalyptic world, first off, you have zombies there. We haven't really seen zombies a whole lot since Coven, and I guess you can even go back to Asylum. There was kind of a zombie presence there, but we haven't really seen zombies very much. And we got the white-faced demon, which obviously looked like Michael even. Like, it's weird. She comes out of her dreamlike state after she passed out in the last episode, and she tells everyone that she sees this coming. That's why she's going to give Michael a chance at the 7 Wonders. But she comes back later in the episode and says, well, I'm fearful of him and I'm going to just allow him to do these so I can make sure he's super powerful so we know how to take him out. It seems a little counterintuitive and a little bit anticlimactic for me. Like, if that was your plan all along, why didn't you tell anybody else? But I think we're just gonna have to wait to get to there. I mean, maybe this plans out in the right way, but maybe it doesn't. But because this episode is just one giant flashback to the events of the first 3 episodes of this season, then we really get to go back and explore the Coven world of all of this. You know, we get to go back to the Academy from this 3rd season, and we get to explore all of the new witches. And one of the things they really made clear is that Mallory and Coco have been there at least for a while. Coco is not very strong, but it's starting to look like, from everyone's point of view, that Mallory is going to be the next Supreme. I mean, that's why Cordelia has been showing signs of aging. Because one of the things season 3 told us is when a Supreme finds out that they're going to be usurped by another witch, then they actually start dying. This is one of the big character points that Fiona had to go through in season 3, where she realized that another Supreme was rising and she was trying to figure out who it was. I really think right now, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening to this review think it has to be Mallory. That's why we've been focusing on her this entire show, and that's why we're going to probably, when we get back to the main events of this season, she's going to be the main focus and one of the things that actually ends up beating Michael. But as I said, Cordelia decides to let Michael go along with the 7 Wonders and try to prove his worth as the new Supreme among witches and warlocks. And that's just kind of something they sweep under the rug in this show, honestly. It's not something, like I said last week, they're trying to show just how powerful Michael is by kind of brushing over a lot of the major plot elements that Coven did in its 3rd season. And I guess that is fine because we've already taken the time in Coven to explain how hard and how difficult all of these things are. But if you're just a new viewer, because American Horror Story is an anthology series, you wouldn't imagine how hard any of these things are because Michael does everything with such complete ease. And even though they say like, oh, no one else can do this, they at least hint to the fact, and we know that Cordelia is someone who could actually do almost everything that Michael does, and with very little trouble, right? She can actually do this stuff. So how many people who are actually this strong besides they're telling us, oh, it's really only Cordelia and it's really only Michael? Of course, we know Michael really isn't a warlock. He is the Antichrist, and that's why he is able to do all of this stuff. I mean, like, that's where his power comes from, and that's one of the ways that he's going to usurp the warlocks and the witches and become the next supreme and everything else like that. But it does seem like from what, the 3rd episode, the 4th episode, and the 5th episode, some kind of war is brewing, and they know that Michael, at least now, is a major threat to be dealt with sometime in the near future, or he's going to spell the death or destruction of the entire world or something. It's weird because it's a flashback episode. We know whatever he did and whoever helped him do what he did have already succeeded in some way. But Cordelia and all these other witches are going to do their best in order to fight him at this point. I mean, we don't know how they can save the world right now. And it's going to be interesting for them to explain how they're going to save the world. But at this point, it looks like Michael has actually won, and they're just going to have to explain it the other way, right? So, like I said, Michael has to do the 7 wonders that were really better explored and much more dramatic in Coven. I mean, obviously Michael is supposed to be super powerful, so he's going to do it super quickly. But the one thing they decided to really build up tension for was, instead of simply going into the afterlife and coming back, which was the main thing of the 7 wonders in the 3rd season, they want Michael to actually go back and rescue Misty, who died, I think, pretty epically in the 3rd season, as a way of making sure that Michael is stronger than Cordelia herself, because she makes it clear that whatever is coming, she wants to make sure that Michael, if he is going to be the next Supreme, is actually stronger than her. Of course, this does come out later to be, she knows Michael is dangerous and she's just trying to see just how strong he is so they know how to fight him in the future, but that's a little confusing. Anyway, instead of making him go into the underworld and come back, they're making him go into the underworld and save Misty, which is kind of a hard task because they've already established a couple times that once someone dies doing the 7 wonders, there's no way to actually bring them back. And when we bring back Misty, where Michael goes into the underworld to actually find her, we find her where she died the last time, in the study room in high school, continuously bringing back the frog that is on the dissection table, unwilling to actually kill it, and being completely lost in that endless loop. And Michael simply goes in there and kills the teacher, making it so Misty can come out and he rescues her. But even though that seems to be the case, she is beside herself with the idea that Michael is the one who rescued her, because everyone else besides the teacher that he killed started chanting something. She really couldn't understand what they were saying, but obviously we all know at this point it's the worst kept secret in the series. Michael is the Antichrist. He is the son of the devil, and he could just simply stroll in and do all this stuff, especially when his dad allows him to be the most powerful person on earth, and he can allow himself to usurp the witches and warlocks to get in a position of power to actually end the world. And that, you know, like, I guess that's the realization the characters in the show are actually coming to, and it's something we're going to be following over the next, what, 1 or 2 episodes, or however long they want to do the Murder House crossover. But it's weird to me to think that most of the fan base already knows this. Isn't it kind of ironic that we understand, at least in the broad strokes, but the characters that we're following are kind of weeks behind us, and we're going to have to wait for them to catch up to where we are now in order to get back to the main story, I'm fine with that. But I have to say, like, I wish that this season would have been structured differently. Like, I think every individual episode is interesting, but I think the reason that we went to like the first 3 episodes building tension and building this new world and establishing the apocalypse for itself without exploring the crossover potential between Coven and Murder House and the story between Cordelia and Michael Langdon, despite the fact that he has the same name as the boy from the end of Murder House, and everything else that's kind of pointing in one direction and one direction only. I have to say, like, I wish that we would have had a little bit of surprises. And I know that it's possible that we could have surprises sometime in the future of this season, but at least as far as I'm aware and everything I read in my comment section, most people know where this is going. It's becoming increasingly obvious where this is going and how this is all connected and how all of these realizations are going to be made. Maybe the main shock of this season is going to be how all these realizations and all these connections are going to deal with how Cordelia and all the witches in the Coven end up fighting Michael in order to win, but I'm not really sure. It is established in this episode that we are going to Murder House the next episode, and guys, Jessica Lange's coming back, at least for an episode or 2 of American Horror Story Apocalypse. She hasn't been here since Freak Show. She's always been the shining beacon in this series, and I know a lot of people are just as excited as I am. So a couple more things I want to talk about before I get out of here that I didn't think were really that important to discuss is John Henry is dead. I liked his character as a warlock, but he was killed by Miss Mead, or the original Miss Mead, because he threatened Michael. He was trying to get answers. He was going to go talk to Cordelia, and Miss Mead just simply comes up unprovoked, kills him, making sure that he posed no threat to Michael whatsoever. And Miss Mead was planning or helping all of this, even telling Michael so much that the top warlock is actually on his side, even though he doesn't understand who Michael's father is. And obviously, from the last couple episodes, we know that Miss Mead and Michael both are aware that Michael's father is Satan himself. And that's why everyone is just simply confused that Michael is a warlock, despite him being the Antichrist. That, you know, like I said, there's so much in this season that we already know as the audience without all of our characters knowing, and they're talking as if we don't know them. And it's weird to me. Like, does that strike anyone else as really weird that they're talking as if we're not completely aware that they're mistaken in one way or another? Like, Michael isn't a warlock, he's a Antichrist, and he's like, it's not witches versus warlocks, it's Antichrist or something else like that. So what are your thoughts on this, guys? What are your thoughts on the episode in general? I have to say, I like the episode for what it's worth, but God, episode 6 is going to be epic. I can't wait. Oh my gosh. Going back to Murder House, going back to where it all began with every single characters. I might actually do a video, because I have never felt compelled to do this, but a video just based off of the footage that they've given us so far, because there's so much to talk about there, even if it's only like 30 seconds. So hope everyone is having a fantastic day. Do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Hit that bell for notifications every single time I upload. It's been real.